Hello and welcome to the show. Today we have another challenge for you. Daniel is back. His Xbox is still alive.
I'm back, everybody.
And everything is currently working, which is good. Now today we are, I'm not really quite sure what to call this. I would call it Soapbox racing, or you could call it neutral racing. Basically, you hold the clutch in and you let the car roll down. Fujimi, one of the downhill circuits, is basically constantly downhill. You can do the whole thing without touching the accelerator. So we are going to try a race like that for a bit of fun and see how it goes. We did this back in Forza 3. We never made a video of it, but we knew how to do it in there, and it's quite an interesting sort of racing. There's a lot more things you have. Yeah, we raced. I can't remember what cars. We did race a few on there. You can do it on Forza 3. Oh, I think we raced Radicals at some point just for a laugh. Anyway,
sorry.
Yeah. Anyway, we are racing some Fiat Puntos. I'm driving the purple one. Daniel is driving the blue one. It is a blistering start from the Fiats. It's the most exciting start to a race there ever has been.
We are in both identical cars here, though.
Yes, both these cars are completely stock and they are completely identical. This is what it is going to be like when the electric cars take over. It's a horrible, horrible future.
Oh,
we must not let it happen.
A horrible prospect.
Don't get me wrong, I know we need to change from petrol, but electric's not the way to go. Go to hydrogen and that sort of thing, because at least it's vaguely like a normal car. Anyway, that's another discussion. We are going to be racing down the entirety of the... Oh, God, is it new downhill or the old downhill?
I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's the new downhill that you can race here. You just hold the clutch in and let it roll. Yeah, you try and go around the outside. Doesn't quite work. I don't think I touched you. I think you found the wall on your own accord. On that one.
Controller issues.
Yeah, oh yeah, you're still with a dodgy controller. Oh yeah, we're going to blame controller issues or lag, as per normal. Anyway, yes, it's an interesting form of racing because there's a lot more to think about, because it's basically about keeping your speed. You've got to maintain as much momentum as possible. So you've got to brake as little as you can for each of the corners and try and get the best racing line possible to keep up as much speed as you can, because the momentum is really key, because you've got no way of building it up other than gravity. At the moment, it's pretty close. It is actually, yes. It's just pure driver's skill at the moment, because obviously we're running identical cars. It is just pure driver's skill. There's nothing that is, obviously standard cars, two identical cars. So it is just, to be fair, it was who didn't touch the wall and who could get the best lines out of the corners. Yeah, if you scrape the wall, you are in real trouble, because you lose that momentum. And there's no real way of building it up again, or build it up quickly anyway, because you're just using gravity. As you can see, I've managed to pull a little bit in front of you. I think you may have scraped the back of my car.
Yeah, I did just tap the wall, or scrape the back of your car, or tap the wall or something, and I did lose not much though. I was surprised.
Yeah, it's very close form of racing. It's if you can get a lobby together, it's quite fun, because it adds a different challenge. Which is always good. We like to do sort of different challenges. I think this is getting towards the end now, and you can see we're still very, very close. Yeah, this is the end. This is the only slight uphill section over the entire course. By the time you get to this section, though, yeah, you got plenty of momentum. You get, I think, the top speed you get on this is about 75 to 80. If you're lucky. So you will need to use the brakes. We are allowed to use the brakes. That's perfectly all right. It's very quiet. It's kind of eerie watching these things.
It's weird because you think there's something missing. You do think there is the engine missing. You just, like, especially when you're driving, because your mind is saying, right, hold the clutch in. But because you're a normal driver, you don't normally hold the clutch in racing. Yeah, it's complicated and weird.
Yes, it's a very weird thing. Also, if you let your finger slip even slightly off the clutch button, you're in quite a lot of trouble as well, because you engage the engine and that slows you down a lot. And there we go. Fiat is across the line and starts to make some noise as the AI driver takes over. So there we go. That was the first race.
6 seconds was the gap.
Yeah, it wasn't very much. Now we wanted to kind of experiment and see how different cars affected going down this hill. So the first thing we're going to be doing is handling. Does have a better handling car make a difference to your sort of time down the hill? Now this is quite tricky, because we're trying to keep these two cars as close as possible, with the exception of handling. So I could have gone in a big 4x4, but then it's a huge, great big thing that's a lot heavier and has got a lot of drag. So I ended up opting for the Mercedes SLR. I think it's an SLR, the old schooly one.
722.
Yeah, 7221. Because the statistics handling wise on it are quite low in comparison to Daniel's Lotus Elise, which is ridiculously high because it's a fantastic little car.
Because it's a Lotus.
Yeah, basically, you want a good handling car, get a Lotus. It's fairly straightforward.
That's pretty much the gist of it. So I was in the Lotus. We just try this as like Alex said, as an experiment, just to see how. Because obviously we've done the 200-mile-an-hour car, you know, with the transit and all that. That was successful. We were surprised that the different cars affected how the drag worked. So I think it was just a test, basically to see if the extensive detail actually went into this sort of this sort of level of detail, to see if it would actually affect the different cars.
Yeah. It was a case of trying to keep as much fair as we could, so we're only changing one variable at a time. So for this one here, we're looking at good handling as opposed to looking at more drag, because it was quite tricky to decide on the cars to use, because the Mercedes that I'm driving is a race car, so it's going to handle fairly well, but it is a very old race car. It's a very expensive car as well. I can't remember. It's like 7 or 9 million. It's terrifying.
Shouted you.
Yeah.
I've already crashed.
You've scraped the wall a couple of times. It's kind of, inevitable. Neither of us are particularly good at fujimi. It's sort of like an acquired taste. You have to practice a lot around here to be really good at it, because I can never remember the blooming corners. As we come towards the end of the race, though, and things were still pretty close between these two.
I was surprised.
I have to say. Yeah, the Mercedes are doing a really good job.
Yeah, admittedly, I scraped the wall. I scraped the wall once or twice. So it would have been, the gap would have been a little bit bigger. But even so, because obviously my car is much better handling, you would naturally assume on this sort of track and these sort of conditions that we were racing, it would be ahead by quite a way. But it wasn't, for whatever reason. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, there's always the odd sort of mistake may have crept in from either of us.
We are close
but
drivers,
still
though.
Pretty close. Yeah, driver skill wise, we are fairly close, and neither of us are particularly amazing at this track. Now, for the second experiment, we were doing this one was with the drag. So I am in the Dodge Daytona. This is one of the most aerodynamical efficiency bodies of any car, I think, or it's one of them. Maybe not quite up there anymore, but it's a very aerodynamical car. Whereas Daniel is in a Land Rover,
in a boat,
which has all the aerodynamical properties of a house. So it's not particularly good. Now, again, the problem with these is the handling issue. The Dodge Daytona, being an old muscle car, doesn't have amazing handling, so they're fairly even on a handling points. It's just the drag, hopefully. There's an overtaken move going on with a Land Rover.
Slowest overtaken move in history.
It is the slowest that has ever gone down. And amazingly, the Land Rover was actually pulling away. Although I think that is partly to do with me getting a terrible exit out of that corner. And that, again, comes back to the point about momentum. When you're doing this sort of racing, momentum really is key. And you've got to try and brake as little as you can, brake as late as you can, turn as little as you can, and to try and keep that momentum going. As you can see there, I managed to get turned a bit tight around that corner, and you found the fence.
I crashed. But
it's a bit tricky in that Land Rover.
It was horrible. because you're trying to drive this sort of track, I don't know. It looks at a corner, gets scared, and just pull onto you in a wall. It was horrible.
Yeah, I mean, the Daytona also isn't particularly easy when you look at the size of the blooming thing. It's humongous. Neither of these cars are particularly agile. Neither of these cars are particularly fantastic at this sort of race. No. But it does mean that they are fairly even on the handling front. That was the idea, so that we could just kind of focus on the drag aspect of the cars. As you can see, though, he's not really doing a huge amount at this moment in time.
No.
They are still fairly close. Another aspect that we should point out that would play a big part in here is sort of friction of parts within the car. That would again cause difference in sort of speeds the cars would get down here, which is something we cannot measure, and I don't know how Forza calculates it, if it does anything different, which I probably doubt it does. Anyhow, we come towards the end.
Too extensive.
Yeah, that would be an awful lot of detail. We've come towards the end. The Daytona had pulled out a bit of a lead, although I think that was largely down to you scraping a few walls more than
I did scrape a few walls again. I blame the controller. Yeah, that was my fault. So the last race experiment we did, I'm in my trusty Lotus as usual, and Alex, you're in a big V8 supercar.
Yes, so we were going to have a look at how the PI affected. All the cars we'd had up to this point were fairly similar PI. The Lotus and the Mercedes were both B-Class. The Land Rover and the Dodge were in C-Class, and the two Fiats were E-Class. Whereas the V8 supercar in here is R3, and the Lotus is B-Class. So we're having a look at how much of a difference that makes. Now, one thing that I didn't think about that is very important in this is the V8 supercar has racing tyres.
Much more grip.
And racing brakes, which means it can turn tighter, can turn sort of faster, and it can brake a lot later. And that is probably key in this. As you can see already, it is starting to pull away.
Sort of the experiment may have been hindered slightly.
Yeah, but, I think we can come to the conclusion racing tyres are very, very, very important in this, more so than everything else.
Yes, that is always a That's a positive. Having racing tyres, especially when you go in downhill with no engine, always helpful.
Yeah, your racing tyres and your racing brakes are probably going to be key in this sort of event. Now, the other cars, interestingly, all of those cars that we ran before, all from E to B class, all ran very similar times towards the bottom of the hill. It was about 8 minutes. I've cut out loads of this because it went on forever. Each of them ran about an 8-minute time to the bottom hill. There was slight variations, and there was the odd time where we had a coming together or we scraped the wall. So none of the runs we'd say were absolutely perfect runs, but the times were fairly similar. In this run, as you can see, the V8 supercar is got a pretty big lead. It's like 20% in. It's probably got a bigger lead than any of the other races, and that's just, I think, from the tyres. It's so much easier to get this thing turned. Yeah, you can carry a lot more speed through the corners. You can see from around the final corner. That does relate
to the PI, because it's got higher PI. It's race brakes and stuff, so it does relate in that sense.
Yeah, and so the V8 supercar won by an absolute mile. Interestingly, it wasn't a huge amount faster. You didn't have a particularly good run on this one, which didn't help matters.
Pretty much it.
Yeah, the V8 supercar did about 7 minutes 40, 45, I think. So I mean, it's quicker, but it's not massively quicker considering it is an R3 car against sort of E-class cars. So yes, there we go. That is some Soapbox
sort
racing.
Of factual.
Yeah, we've been sort of factual. It's very important to have racing tyres, which is
when you're downhill racing, always helpful.
Yeah. It's good fun. I suggest you go try it. It's very easy.
It's very good fun. Yes.
I forgot. I'm pretty sure it's the new downhill that's the one to do it on. Basically, you have to be driving with manual and clutch. Just hold the clutch down, and when you want to go, just rev the engine, and then the car will start moving. And just keep the clutch held for the entire race. If you let off the clutch, or if your finger slips off the clutch, you're in trouble because it engages the engine and it slows you down.
Yeah, then you slow down, and that's pretty much your race over. I would like to say just before we finish, I do apologise for everyone. Well, I do apologise to everyone that I haven't been here doing videos. So Alex has been running around like a headless chicken trying to get everything sorted.
It's been a bit busy this week.
Yeah,
but,
as you can imagine, because I've been at work. Yes, I've been at work, so it's going to be. But hopefully, it will resume normal next week. It will take a couple of weeks for us to get back into the rhythm, but in the next 2 weeks, everything will be normal as it was, and we'll both be doing as much videos as we can. So yes, I would like to say that.
Yeah, hopefully everything will be back to normal next week, and V8 Supercars will be back on for people who want to take part in that. And yes. So that is it for this video, guys. Thank you very much for watching. As ever, if you have challenges you would like to see us do, please leave them in the comment section. We will have a look through and we'll pick our favourites. However, until next time, goodbye.